all of the delegates and swimmers from different parts from around the world. We are truly proud to host this awesome event here in Edmonton and give you the big old Canadian welcome and the Edmonton welcome. It's been a remarkable journey for the Making Waves crew and all of the volunteers, and I can't tell you how much we're looking forward to this upcoming week with all of the events. It's going to be, as we say here in Canada, a whole hockey bag full of fun. My name is Murray Billett, and I've been a community activist, and I always call myself not a gay activist. I've always called myself a human rights activist, because don't give one group of people a blue card and somebody else a gold card. So I've always shied away from being called a gay activist. For me, this is about equality rights and just looking after each other, and that's what this is all about, and that's what this evening is all about. A little bit about me first. I'm a former police commissioner here in the city, and I was an out gay police commissioner. And I must say I had a little bit of fun doing that. I was just telling some of the guys earlier when some of the police officers, because we all know wherever we work there's a little bit of conflict. But the nice part about my job was that I had a little bit of a rank going, so we'd get into a little bit of conflict and I'd go, okay, do I have to put my purse down again? And with that kind of wink and a smile, and it's a bit of a clarion call for some people. And my background is all human rights, labor relations kind of stuff. And I've been at that for, since a long time. So this evening we're going to be talking about intercultural understanding and the components of what that means, and how we participate as a community, not just in Canada, but around the world. And we've got a whole host of really qualified people who have lived and continue to live in very challenging and very diverse communities, very different countries. When I think of how fortunate we are in Canada, and then I look at our brothers and sisters from Uganda and what they're faced with there. But I remind people, here in Alberta, it was only in 1998 that we got equality rights here in Alberta. And we had to take, the province or the state of Alberta, we had to take our provincial government to the Supreme Court of Canada to get equality rights, to have sexual orientation into our Human Rights Act. But this community held hands together, and when I say community, our allies and our families held hands and walked through that door of equality together. And the cool part about that particular decision, as a result of that decision, the Supreme Court saying we must have equality, the last three provinces in Canada were forced to come on board as a result of our community taking our provincial government to court. So a little bit of equality rights history, and now we're in a place to lead, and we want to hold hands with our brothers and sisters from around the world and learn what we can do to help each other move this situation and heighten some awareness and clearly get some more equality rights here in our world. I will introduce our panel now, and as a matter of fact, I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and I'll ask everybody to just give a brief bio in terms of your involvement and what brings you here. And then once we have introductions done, I will pose some questions, and I'll start here with David.
I'm David Parsons. I'm the president of the Sydney Stingers Water Polo Club. This is my second IGLA. I was at Stockholm last year, and really just blew me away how exciting it was meeting all these other people from around the world. And this year I've tried to bring, I brought two teams with us from Sydney in the open and rec divisions, and hoping I can get all of the team members excited and build the club's participation next year as well.
Jean from Paris. I'm the only one from Paris playing water polo, but we're three from Paris swimming, and that's not a lot and not enough, but I'm very happy to be here to represent my country. And as David, I was last year in Stockholm, and it blew me away as well, and that's why I wanted to be back here this year. That's when I met Mike, who was promoting IGLA 2016 in Edmonton, and I'm very happy to be here. In Paris, we'll be hosting the Gay Games in 2018, and again, it will be a opportunity to meet people and gather around sports and to promote equal rights.
Jeremy.
I'm Jeremy Davidson. I am lucky to wear two hats here this week. I'm president of the San Francisco Tsunami swim and synchronized swim teams, and also I'm here as an IGLA co-chair. I've been really fortunate to work with Mike and Nate to bring together our efforts with Uganda and working with Tsunami to help support that effort as well. So it's great to be here.
And I'm Mike Stansbury, here from Edmonton at the Making Waves Aquatics Club. I'm the original founder of Making Waves back in 1999. And very excited to be hosting this championship, and excited to be having a discussion around what our experiences have been like from different countries and what it means to be here at IGLA.
Everybody, my name's Nate Freeman. I'm a lawyer from the United States. I swam in IGLA several years ago with the Queer Utah Aquatic Club. I was working in Salt Lake City, and since then I've been a number of different places. I worked for a year in South Africa for Justice Edwin Cameron, who is known as a gay rights and HIV activist. I met a lot of really interesting activists in his chambers who were coming from a lot of different parts of Africa, which made me very interested in seeing what was going on in different parts of Africa. And I ended up doing a bicycle ride from Cairo down to Cape Town, sort of to meet up with different groups in different parts. I met people in Ethiopia and Kenya and Zambia. And as a result of that journey and that experience, I met an organization in Uganda who I then went and worked with and have been working with for the past 6 months. And when I was in Uganda, I met this, I think one of the things that's is unfortunate is that we usually hear the bad news coming out of Uganda. We've had some more last week, and it is a place that has some bad laws on the books, certainly with regards to LGBTI rights. But what we don't hear is a lot of the good news that's coming out too. And I was really thrilled when I went to meet this vibrant, thriving community of a lot of really brave and interesting people doing great work. And especially in the athletics community. And working with them, we kind of came up with this plan of, well, let's see if we can get a little bit more international exposure and international opportunities for athletes who are here. And so they'll introduce themselves to you now.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Diane Sydney Bakaya, and I work with Sexual Minorities Uganda. I'm also a community paralegal, and like Nate just introduced, the background of our team, Uganda Aquatics Coaches, and excited to be here.
I'm Adebayo Atiti from Uganda, Mr. Gay Pride 2015. I'm a proud sports person who participates in different sporting activities. So happy that Nate came to Uganda. I'm happy to because I want to swim in the community, which is not discriminative. I've been participating in sports in different communities which are so discriminative. They say, man, woman, get off the block. Yeah, but then I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much. My name is Claire Beragaba. I'm also from Uganda. So excited to be here first and foremost because it's just amazing that a Ugandan team can participate in an international gay and lesbian tournament. It's like amazing. So it was so exciting to see the Ugandan flag next to the rainbow flag. That is a big deal for us. So that is the excitement I come with. The past 3 days have not been the best for us as an LGBT community. The Ugandan police raided one of the events during our annual weekly gay pride event. So many people were beaten up. I was personally arrested along with Adebayo trying to defend our community that really had done nothing wrong. So it's great to be here first and foremost, to leave that stress behind for a while. distress a little bit. Like Adebayo said, be in a place where we can be free and not worry about police, raiding an event. So yeah, I've been working within the community as an activist for the last 4 years. I co-chaired a coalition that led the fight against the notorious anti-gay law, which we eventually had annulled by the Constitutional Court. And right now I work as the Equality and Non-Discrimination Project Coordinator at a legal aid organization called Chapter for Uganda. So happy to be here.
My name is Shaky. I'm from Tel Aviv, Israel. I've been to 3 IGLAs, and the first time was back in Cleveland, 2014, which inspired me when I came back home to open the first LGBT sports club in Tel Aviv, in Israel, actually, which is now, after 2.5 years, has like 120 members, which means swimming, basketball, tennis, running, football, soccer, football. But unfortunately, I'm the only one from Israel here, because the majority of our swimming team participate this year in Helsinki in the Euro Games. It's too much travel to both events. And I'm also a member of IGLA board.
Thanks, you guys. So when we talk about intercultural understanding, one of the things that has still gets a bee in my bonnet is the acquiescence that we've made it, we can hold hands reasonably safely in our country and welcome with open arms people from all over, but we forget about other parts of the world. So there's a couple of questions I'd like to pose to the panel, and I'd like to ask, and I'll just ask people to answer randomly. First of all, what have we been doing right individually and collectively to get us to where we are? And then secondly, when we're done this first round of questions, I'm going to ask the panelists, what do we have to do individually and collectively in the future? So I'll just throw it out to the panelists. Right now, what have we been doing right individually and collectively? And who would like to start? Well, let's let Mike take it right off the top.
Collectively, when I think about changing the hearts and minds of people, which is really what's needed to change societal views around gay and lesbian acceptance in our society, I think that sport is very powerful. And I think about the Olympics that are happening, and I think about what better way to show that we can play, that we can participate, than through sport. I think sport has a unique way of uniting people, regardless of where we're from, and it shows that we are who we are, and that we can swim, we can play polo, we can do all these amazing things. Some of us are better than others, and that's okay. But I think it's, for me, one of the things that we can do is to gather. And IGLA is one of those opportunities where we are gathering and we are competing in the sports that we love. And by competing in sport, we are showing the world that we can compete.
Who else would like to jump in? You can, go ahead.
I think that what the community has done right these last decades is to take the focus publicly and politically. With a historical perspective, it was okay to be homosexual back in the, for instance, 1920s. If you were poor, you kept it in the closet. If you were rich, you could live as you wanted. But it was not fine and was dangerous. And I think that the community has taken risks to put the thing publicly and politically and to demand rights that were written down in the laws which made sure that if you were not rich, you didn't have to stay in the closet, and whether you were rich or not, you could walk down the streets and protest and march and claim who you were, and that it was not even okay to be gay, but it was just as fine. So today I can hear my friends who have children that their children can have, if they're a girl, a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and it's fine. And if their child is a girl, that she can have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and that's fine, they don't care. And that would have never happened if we didn't have taken risks to demand that our rights are written down in the law. And I think that should be done in every country, and it's very, very brave of you to demand that in your country and to undertake the path that we have been, well, not me, obviously, but my fellow older gay friends. I've been bravely done in the past decade.
Thank you. It's very, very true. One conversation at a time is what we do.
If I take on what Nate just said, I believe that the key word is visibility. The more gay, lesbian, bisexual people that stand out and say, this is who I am, and it's not needs to be in sports, it needs to be in politics, it needs to be in the police force, it needs to be in every area, and we know that there are LGBT people in every aspect of life, in every occupation, or every wherever you go. The more that came out, will came out, or say this is who I am, it's going to be easier to the people, to the other people.
I think, first of all, when it comes to sports, sports participation, sports practice, you can practice. You can take part in any sporting activity you want. No one will say you, because when it comes to football, I can't play in a skirt. Of course, I put on a short. I put on a short to participate in football. But then, when it comes to swimming, you also put on your swimming costume and enter water. According to what I see, is that there is no law that stops someone from participating in sports. Yeah, and however much they can say get off the block, they'll still say, baby, who are you, man? If you say man, you can participate in many what? So I actually think we have to sensitize people more. Yeah, and beat Uganda, beat other countries. You know, people have to be sensitized that the LGBTI people who are really good in sports, and not only sports, because many are educated, yeah, but some of them actually lack employment. You get it? Yeah, so because they're denied, when your boss gets to know who you are, in Uganda, you're fired, you know? But then, that is not the end of the world. People have to be sensitized. Mostly, different parts of the country. Yeah, like you tell these people that LGBTI people are there, and we are who we are. You can't change who I am openly. I'm a trans man, and I date women. That is who I am. I believe I was born like that. You know? You can't change who I am. However much you bring up police, however much you beat me up, however much you do what, that is me. It is not going to, because you're not going to come into my bed and say, who am I sleeping with, you know? So, I think we have to sensitize people. That is it.
And I would say you folks have done a tremendous job by being who you are. The way I characterize it is discrimination hinders coming out, but coming out hinders discrimination. So you talked about being sensitizing people. What have you done right in Uganda? You've been doing some really good things. Tell us a little bit more about what you've done to get where you are now.
As me as a person, I'm a popular sports person. I participate in different sporting activities. I play soccer for the national team of Uganda. And I've participated in different activities, rugby, pool table, and I have different medals. When I was still at campus, Macquarie University, I was a sports woman of the year. I wanted it to be man, you know. In time to come, I was sportswoman of the year since 2012 up to 2015. I was winning it. And openly, when my sports tutor came to me and asked me, but Adebayo, I'm not understanding who you are. I've never seen you with a boyfriend. I openly told my sports tutor, I like girls. And she was like, really? That is a lady called Penna Kalenda. And she was like, okay, fine. So she was shocked, but then it was okay. I've actually advised many sportsmen to come out and participate in sports. And currently, I'm going to open up an organization with a hand of Nate, Diana, and Claire. That will be the Uganda Copper Academy of Sports Association, just to help out the sports people in the country to have where they belong. Because we had a friendly game, the national team had a friendly game to Kenya, and they called, I was on the national team. We were 25 people, but they were taking 18. So I trained with the national team, I was there. Of course, I know my football, and I'm better than many of them. But then it reached time of going to Kenya. The next day, I had everything. I had my passport, I had proved each and everything. But then the next day to go to Kenya, this women head coach, the assistant coach is my friend, and is Kuchu. Yeah, Kuchu. But even the head coach is Kuchu, but then in the closet. And the board of FUFA was like, the bio, I think we put a star on that bio. Because like open, when you go to Facebook, when you go to media, at the bio, Mr. Pride, you know, Gay Pride Uganda. So they're like, I think we put a star at the bio. So I was left out. But then when they need me, when things get tougher, they take me and no.
That's absolutely brilliant, and I want you to. Well, I want you to think about, because we're going to come back to you folks and talk about what we can do individually and collectively here in this room. I'd like to hear from perhaps Australia. What have you folks been doing? Because you've got your own struggles there. You still can't get married, for heaven's sakes. What's going on down under?
We have a very conservative government, and yeah, it's not looking like it's changing anytime soon. But we're persevering with that. But I guess on a sports front, I mean, I've been president of my club for 2 years now, and in my tenure, I've really been trying to develop the club and expand it, and we've done that quite successfully over the last 2 years. But another thing that we've done there is actually started up a water polo club in Brisbane as well. So I want to sort of get as many people involved in the sport as I can. Australia, sort of world domination is my motto. But it's, I guess as president of my club, I can really see just the mental, physical, and just emotional, I guess, support and positive aspects that come out of the sport in our club. And I really wanted to share that with other people in Australia. So with a bit of help from the Melbourne Surge team, which is another water polo club, we set about putting in motion starting a team in Brisbane, and I'm hoping they'll be with us in Miami next year. Probably got about 40 to 50 people there already, which is amazing. So I guess the point is, you know, people want to get involved. It's just about having someone there to ignite a bit of passion and get things started, and it'll sort of evolve and run with itself. So we're sort of quite excited about that, and yeah, just building our own club and getting more people involved as we can. So.
We all know that Australia isn't particularly shy when it comes to celebrating queer culture. If anybody's been to the Mardi Gras, and I was there in the Mardi Gras in the 80s, so the training wheels on the gay community and the queer community in Australia came off years ago, so that's something to be proud of.
That being said, I have a question to pose, is like, because a lot of us who, not from Australia, but maybe have a little bit of understanding of the country, is you guys have very defined gender roles of masculine and feminine, right? It's kind of a big thing with Australians. And so do you think that's a struggle that you guys are kind of facing, is like, you know, obviously getting the gays to fit into what is a masculine gender role, perceived role?
I wouldn't say so. I think it really depends on where you are. Sydney, I guess, is a global city. You're quite insulated from a lot of issues, I guess, like that. We don't particularly experience a lot of issues of homophobia in the pool. We play what I call mainstream teams from different universities around Sydney. We've never really experienced any sort of issues with homophobia. In terms of getting people, you know, involved in the club, I don't think water polo is a different sort of sport. I think it's not as macho as our Australian rugby league or Aussie rules football, where it's very ochre, we like to call it. You've got to be one of the boys, and you've got to drink 20 schooners of beer after a game. Go out and get blind drunk, that kind of thing. So I think it depends on the sport. I think water polo's got a bit more of a bit more class to it, I think. And I think that brings with it people who might be a bit more open-minded and accepting. So yeah, I wish that was the case for all sports. It's not. But you are right, it still does exist in Australian society. And I think people playing in an inclusive rugby team might sort of feel that a little bit more than, say, our sport.
Jeremy, would you mind sharing with us from the motherland of San Francisco, as I like to call it, what's going on in your town, which has such tremendous rich history? And for those of you that haven't heard, it was recently announced that the United States Navy will be branding one of their ships after Harvey Milk, which is a remarkable testimony to the work that so many of us have done.
Well, I think one thing that we're doing right, and I thought about this, Nate and I actually had lunch a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that we talked about that really struck me was some of the individual stories of the swimmers on the team, and how the safe space of the club, of the team, of the pool, of the workout, of the camaraderie, the friendship, how that assembly of all those factors allowed for personal growth. And, you know, just to kind of bring some of these different comments together, I think when I think of San Francisco, I've spent a lot of time in my 2 years as president talking with some of the founders, you know, these men who founded the team in '86, right around Gay Games 2, I believe, and hearing their stories of not being able to rent the pool because the city didn't want to rent to a bunch of gay men. And the slew of bureaucracy, you know, factors that befell them, you know, in those early years, and hearing those stories of growth and what people were able to achieve individually, but also, you know, as a team. And I think, you know, what we are doing well, I think, in all of our own clubs, but as an organization together, is that we are creating those safe spaces, and we're giving people a chance to reach inward and push themselves harder in ways that maybe they never had pushed themselves because they couldn't have done so. Maybe they didn't feel comfortable to participate in sports as a child or as a teenager or in college, for whatever reason, be it their sexuality or whatever the circumstance. But what our teams are doing is we're bringing people together who come from different kinds of adversity, which may or may not include their sexuality, but we're giving them a chance to push themselves within that, you know, underneath that umbrella that includes sexuality, and what people are capable of doing. It's really powerful. So thank you for being here.
Thanks, Jeremy. I always try to remind people that we, as a community, we are all minorities within minorities, And as a result of that, our community represents every community in the world. Every age, every gender, every nationality, we got them all in our community, and people forget the power of what we can do. Nate, would you talk a little bit about your sense of direction since you've landed in Uganda and some of your history, if you would, please?
Yeah, sure. I'm multitasking, and so I'm sorry that I'm surreptitiously checking my phone. But Christy, could you tell me your address so that we can tell where you got it? Okay. We now have all of our swimmers on the ground. They're all here. We've had two of them were stuck for about 24 hours in Istanbul, and they've never traveled before, so it's been just a little bit of a nightmare. So not surprisingly, her bag is missing, but
Of course.
thank you. Okay, fantastic. Okay, my experiences and where we're going from here. Yeah, I think one thing that I've learned, I mean, this will echo a few of the other comments too, but I think especially as a lot of rights have been achieved in the United States and Canada, I've had a lot of conversations with people here and in Europe who are interested in what's happening in other parts of the world, but maybe don't, really understand or really have a good idea of what's going on. And I think that at least some of the things that I've learned from the time that I've gotten to spend in Uganda would include the fact that a lot of international activism money often goes to legal and health rights, which are really important. I mean, those things are certainly essential. But it sometimes misses the larger picture of what we've all discussed as a panel in terms of how you actually really change people's hearts and minds about what's going on in the community, and really developing people's identities, allowing them to be who they are as athletes or as artists or as business people. I think there's huge opportunities for activism in lots of places that go hand in hand with other kinds of work, which is to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate in sports if they want to participate in sports, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. And that applies even if they are living in a place in the world where you think, wow, the laws are really bad. I think too often we think, well, how could there possibly be an athletics community where the laws are so bad? Well, there were athletics communities in the United States and Canada too, even when the laws were bad. Bad laws don't stop people from doing what they're passionate about. And people are passionate about these things all over the world. And I would like to reach a place where we see more and more of those people have an opportunity to do what they love.
Thanks, absolutely. Anybody else want to add something for where we are and what we've done right?
I just want to emphasize the comment around creating a safe space for people to gather. Even with Making Waves is a small club here in Edmonton that creates a safe space for people to gather to swim. I've seen incredible growth personally and athletically from people's participation at that event. And I think that's also what IGLA represents, and in terms of where we're going. By coming to these IGLA championships and sharing or having a common experience, we talked about having a great experience in Stockholm. We sort of share that human experience by socializing, by gathering, and by coming to events like IGLA, it creates that safe space for others to consider joining smaller clubs, to potentially give yourself a goal to work towards. And these events continue to be important to help individuals to be themselves and to develop their own identities. But there's still a lot of work to do, because when I think about the countries that are here at IGLA, the ones that aren't here, it goes to show that there's still a lot of work that we need to do by creating additional safe spaces around the world.
And sorry, can I just quickly add to what Peggy's saying? There was even a complacency amongst the community, is the fight done? Have we won the fight? Because even there was comments with regards to the MVP award that you got, and people saying, why is there a gay parade? Why are they having gay sports? And when we bring and have people coming from countries where they're maybe forgotten that there is still struggles in the world, so it gives a face and it brings a story back into us, here in Canada and the States. It brings a story back into light, saying, no, we still have a ways to go, and so it helps to keep the dialogue open and keep the dialogue going.
And that's exactly where we're going now, is where do we go in the future? Because it is one conversation at a time. And over the years, there have been people that have had to go in front of the microphones and go in front of the TV and be that out gay person. that takes some courage, but it's equal courage to come out to your family, to your friends, to your neighbor. You know, you can Google my name and there's gay all over it, but when I go out, I still have to come out. You know, and that's just the reality. And we have the right, the responsibility and obligation to continue to set down the platform for future generations. And on that note, what do we have to do to make sure in the future that we can make it better for those that are coming out behind us? Because the gay community, it's like every year there's a new model of car coming out. Every year there's a new generation of kids coming out, and people coming out in different parts of their life. Was there a question there?
Well, you talk about the model of the new car, but I would like to also suggest that people really love old cars. And the old cars are quite beautiful. I think that there are some that choose to go in front of a microphone or on TV. Someone like me, I remember when I was young, I locked my bedroom door and I said, just admit it, you're gay. And I thought, oh, thank God I came out. Well, I only came out to myself. I was the only
person to come out to.
I was the only one. But what I didn't realize, and I'm from originally Green Bay, Wisconsin, I had no idea that I would be coming out for decades until I got to an age where I said, I don't care what anyone thinks. I deserve and I will be happy within the limits of the law. Now, no disrespect, but the limits of your law, I profoundly disagree with. I think that government should stay out of my bedroom and let me love whomever I love. I don't really think I'm a huge threat. And
none of us are. That's the rest of the story.
Sports,
right?
I think, is a great way. People see me as a professional. They see me as a neighbor. They see me as a swimmer. They see me as a person who walks her dog. They see me as someone who loves my partner. So on many, many levels, I am the old car that is making a quiet little statement about how the
just
world
living
is,
your life.
Yeah, but it's a life that's very rich.
Yes,
and
that's what we want for everybody. So let's talk a little bit about individually what we can do and collectively what we should do. And I'll just throw it open to the panel. Who would like to start?
I think for myself as an activist coming from Uganda, like I do want to learn from groups that have gone through the same process that we're trying to go through, right? Like what best practice, not breast. What best practices we can learn, because we have so many sports persons that are struggling with homophobia, transphobia, and struggling to get into the mainstream. So we do want to learn from clubs how they've overcome some of their challenges to get to places where they've been. But also, I think as IGLA, perhaps the next country that should host IGLA should be a country where homosexuality is criminalized. And I know, and I know there are issues with safety, but I think it would be worth it for such an event to happen in a country which is not so welcoming, because then that adds visibility to both the community, but can also be proof that holding such an event in a country where homosexuality is criminalized, it would send a message to these countries, first of all, that it's not a big deal. Having thousands of LGBT people in your country poses no harm, but it would also bring visibility to the issues of the country. Because while having us here is great, I think it would be much more impactful to have such a huge event in a country where homosexuality is criminalized. And as far as other, I guess, dreams for where we're going as activists, but also groups, I'll probably have a better answer after this week. Having experienced Edmonton and participation in IGLA, which I'm very excited about. But yeah, those would be my two specific hopes for this week and moving forward in the future.
Thank you. Who else would like to add?
My answer is simple. What we can do individually and collectively is have a great week and talk about your experiences. So, like your experiences in Stockholm, talk about what it was like to come to Edmonton and to compete, to meet new people, to share your experiences, and say, we need to continue to gather, we need to continue to have safe spaces and to go to other IGLA events. So in terms of where do we go, we need to keep going and share our collective human experiences, which is gonna be fabulous.
Absolutely. Who else would like to jump in?
I think that most of us are very fortunate because we're coming from countries that we are not need to fight to survive as humans, as gay humans. But now our struggle or our fights is turned more into the quality of our life, not life itself, but the quality of our life. And participating in sports is one aspect of that. Culture life is one aspect of them. So we're kind of turning our focus from the struggle for life itself, which obviously in some parts of the world it still exists, the struggle for life. But the fact that we are not in need to struggle for our life, because most of us can be openly gay, and usually no harm will come to us. But still, we now need to emphasize our culture as gay people, and we do have a lot to be proud of. We do have a lot to be proud of our community. As you just said, we are everywhere, and there are magnificent and fabulous people of our community everywhere, and we just need to bring them out in front and to celebrate it.
I think leading by example, that's what we do. I always joked over the years, if you shake any family tree hard enough, the fruit will fall out of it. You know, because if you look over your shoulder, you know, there was Auntie Mabel and her friend Betty, you know, they never did find the right man, you know, that kind of thing. Or those two guys on the corner, gosh, look at their garden, they're bachelors, you know, that's the way it used to be. Down at this end of the table, where do we have to go in the future? Any sense? Jeremy, do you want to run that?
Well, I think it's really important that we think about the ways that we can create those safe spaces and lift one another up, and that it's not just that we're writing a check or that we're, and I think you bring up a really important point, Claire, about increasing visibility in a way that's meaningful, right? So instead of bringing, you know, a handful of people to one place, what would it look like to bring many people to another place? And I think perspective is really important, and I think, you know, it's important for us to check our perspectives and to learn new ones and to be willing to think in new ways and challenge ourselves to be uncomfortable in the conversations and be willing to ask hard questions and listen to hard answers. And I think that's how the real growth happens, in addition to the kinds of work that we're doing this week with, you know, the fun and the fun parts of visibility and all of those great parts of being kind of one team. But I think where the real work is done is actually, you know, in these conversations that you're talking about. So.
What can we do in North America and in Australia and in Europe to help you in Uganda that have what appears to be an insurmountable battle, but we took our country to court, and how can we help you individually and collectively? Diane, do you want to run that?
I actually wanted to just add on
Jeremy?
Jeremy, Mike, and my colleague over there, in terms of, you know, the biggest impact when you're looking at changing attitude and, you know, how being viewed in terms of experience sharing. Because personally, my experience as an activist, once you share your story and, you you're sharing different positive and negative experience. It sort of has an impact. And the fact that UCAT is present at IGLA 2016, for me that's big because we're tackling the bit of involvement. Yeah, and the fact that, we're here, involvement of UCAT, and then also speaking about visibility, because we're shooting two birds with one stone, visibility and also involvement, because this is going to speak a lot. The fact that a Ugandan team, prior the closure of a Pride event, is going to speak something totally different. So getting other teams and other clubs part of IGLA will put the visibility and experience sharing to another level.
I actually think, as her said, I think we have to look at all the cars. They know how far they've moved, and they can help us in directing us in the proper way, the corners they've passed through. When I say old cars, I mean it's okay. Yes, I mean old women. But then how old women and men, old gay people, but then how are we getting in touch with them? Yeah? How do I know that you were this and you are this? So, but that's what I think. I think we have to look up to them and maybe share experience with them. They tell us how far they've moved, because we also want to be in the country, we also want to be in Uganda. As far as I'm 100, I'm 100 years old. But how am I going to reach 100 when I'm still in Uganda where they can think of me?
Think about that for a minute, you guys, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Just to add on a little bit, I think it's very important, first of all, foremost, to for you guys to understand that there's a very vibrant LGBT community in Uganda, despite what we go through. So as far as how you can help us, first of all, understand that. So in the grand scheme of things, don't think, we'll come to Uganda and help these people. That's not what we want. What we want is for you to stand with us. I've always told individuals, instead of you going, like a white person going to a meeting in Uganda, maybe with a president, and saying this is what the LGBT community wants, I want to be there. In my own capacity, I can get access to such high-level people. But if you do have influence, if you do have resources to get me to a place where I can speak for myself, I would rather you do that. It goes back to what I think Jeremy said about creating safe spaces, creating spaces for activists, for communities to organize and be who they are, because that is how we win as Ugandans, by being visible, but also being protected. So we would ask for solidarity, number one. We would ask for you to stand with us, not for us. But those checks are also very important. I work for Chapter 4 Uganda that gives legal aid services to the LGBT community. Diana works for Sexual Minorities Uganda, which is the umbrella LGBT organization. And these organizations need your support. So financial, that would be one of the ways that the international community can be of help. But mostly solidarity. It was so comforting when we were being beaten up and arrested to find messages from IGLA on Twitter, like we stand in solidarity with the LGBT community. That visibility keeps us safe. So yeah, those would be my asks.
Thank you. That sums it up very nicely. Now we're at the top of the hour. We've been chatting for approximately an hour. Was there anybody that had a particular question for any of the panelists?
Sure.
Go ahead, sir.
Not necessarily a question, just a comment to say that I admire everyone on the panel. Having grown up in the United States and when I was about a lot younger or your ages, being gay was defined as a mental illness. It was on the books as a mental illness. And so everyone was in the closet, and people of color tended to be more homophobic than most, and a lot of them are still that way. So So I've been able to see the whole evolution of pure closet. I thought I was the only gay person
The only gay in the village?
in the world. I didn't meet one until I was in college. So yeah, it's I admire the evolution that's happened, and I was married. I had a daughter. I came out to her and the family. That gave her the courage to come out as well, and we marched in the Pride Parade. Wow. This year, so
There's change.
Change is good. So keep up the good.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to tag into that one, and also, Jean, you mentioned something early on. I think one of the great hopes we have right now, apart from the old cars, are the brand new cars. There are a lot of young people, a lot more young people, gay and straight and everything in between, who are supporting us than there ever used to be. And if we can tap into that, tap into your non-gay friends and get them involved as well, that can be really, really huge.
That's certainly what we did here in Alberta. It was our communities and our allies, and I can tell you in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a time when Michael Fair and I both had police watching our homes because there were threats around us, and we moved through that. Nothing to the degree that you face, but we all understand the anxiety that goes with that. But the joy of what we're gathered here for today is to have this wonderful discussion, and I too have been multitasking here, and I'm pleased to tell you that we've already got a fundraising event planned for you this spring with our Fruit Loop. I just contacted them, and we're going to be holding our Fruit Loop is a great big pop-up gay party that lines up down the street and has hundreds of people. So we'll be sending you a check in the spring sometime. So it's the least we can do to help you out a little bit. And thank you, panelists, for sharing your stories and bringing some focus to the work that we have to do. We all have that right, that responsibility and obligation to work together. So I think we need to get up, we need to spark up Twitter for the next week or so and see if we can get things trending on Twitter. So that's one of our tasks. Thanks very much for joining us, and enjoy your week. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on. Thank you.
Thank you.